back in like 2015. Shout out to Gadget from DMV. He runs Digital Hustle Films. He does a lot of production videos and stuff for artists like Kev Brown, Hassan Mackey, cats that's down there that's, tending to make a lot of noise. So he put together a hangout and invited a bunch of producers. One of the producers he invited was a cat that's from here named Tashir Rasay, who used to rhyme. And he was running something called Computer Music Academy. So he had a group of producers he was cool with, and we kind of joined crews. And then what ended up happening was we started having conversations with each other and finding out we had a lot in common. So we all 30-something plus. We all got wives and families. We all professional dudes or got jobs. You know what I'm saying? You got a cat that's a professor at Temple. You know what I'm saying? You got a cat that worked for FedEx. You got a cat that, you know what I'm saying? You got a cat that's, that's shut in at the crib. You know what I'm saying? And make beats and sell beats. And it was all around making beats. So we was all, we all producing. We all making beats. We all started doing projects. And we was doing our own projects, selling them on Bandcamp, selling them to the people around us. Then we started doing projects together. We actually ended up starting to do retreats. So we would all meet up in a city and go and buy records and dig for records, bring all of our equipment, record music, stuff like that. So we did DMV, we did Chicago, then we stayed in San Francisco, and we did, when we got to Chicago, we did the first album. It was called Chicago Fire. It's on Dirty Old Man on Spotify. Then we did an album called Fucking and it's called Fucking because the dude who live in San Francisco, every time we on the podcast, he always be like, fucking yeah, man, fucking up. So that's why we called it that. So this time we came to the D. And we hold up in an Airbnb on the corner of East Oakland and East Grand Boulevard from a Wednesday to a Sunday, and recorded music the whole time we was there. So I'm engineering. We done set up a dang space in the Airbnb. I chose it based on how it was set up because I kind of set up the trip.
Okay.
Set up a room, invited a whole bunch of rappers, invited, you know what I'm saying, all of these producers. We had 15 of us. They got a chance to see the city, see the sights, this, that, and the third. They got a chance to dig for records and all
Feel
that.
the Motown spirit.
Absolutely. They got a chance to do all that. We went to Dilla's Donuts, took pictures with Boog Brown and this, that, and the third, did all kinds of stuff. We was in a loft, so you could go up on the roof, you know what I'm saying, do whatever you had to do, whatever.
Really make a vibe out of this shit.
Absolutely. So I took all the stems that came out of it. I took all the music that came out of it and crafted a record out of it. And so I combined what we had already done with some of the affiliations that I have around here. We got Jamal Buffer from Buff One from Black Opera. We got, you know what I'm saying? We really tried to focus around the people who was immediately in our circle, though. So I mixed the album, and it's coming out. It's coming out February 29th at this point. But we got like a single, you know what I'm saying? That's called Okay. With a guy that's from here named Fields, and me. I actually rhymed on it. They pulled me out.
Dad rap,
right? Dad rap. # dad rap. And we do talk about dad rap. Like we all fathers and this, that, and the third. And it's not like typical. You know what I'm saying? It's not preachy at all. You know what I'm saying? It's still rough because that's what we like. You know what I'm saying? We call it the Dirty Old Men because we like. Dirty shit, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, stuff like that. But I still try to make sure that it stays modern.
Yeah.
So yeah, the album come out 2/29, and it's a documentary that we filmed too. We got like 11 hours of footage.
Okay.
That we kind of crafted.
How long you gonna condense the documentary down to?
You know what? I don't know. He's still trying to process his way through it. And what I'm thinking is
2/29 is an important date.
Yeah, it's a leap year.
Yeah. They don't come around that much.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I was like, you know what I'm saying? This would be a special time. So. And we got to get this one out because we planning for the next retreat. The next retreat, I ain't going to necessarily say where it's at yet, but we planning for the next retreat. And my intention is to record another album and get the album out. So
another documentary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And make it like a yearly thing. And we're not the only people that do that. You saw what Dreamville did.
Yeah.
I think Dreamville got the idea from us because we was putting the stuff up, putting the stuff on YouTube when we was in Chicago and this, that, and the third. But also Jazzy Jeff does one. And Jazzy Jeff is inviting like heavy hitters, 14 KT, Eric Roberson, Fonte from Little Brother, all those cats. And they did an album called
Fonte
Chasing.
is the originator of Drake's sound.
Absolutely. They did an album a few years ago called Chasing Goosebumps.
Okay. From
this retreat. So it's a commitment that we've made, and what we're working on now is trying to make it bigger. trying to build it out, trying to get engagement with other businesses and get partnerships going with other people in order to make it really something special. Okay. So that's what this album is about.
I love it. I saw, I mentioned that you're an educator as well, and shout out to I didn't know that you knew my homie until I saw the video, my boy Kente. Me and Kente went to Cass together.
Shouts out to Kente Ross.
He is undoubtedly the same guy he's been all his life.
I love him.
And I love him to death. That's my dog. Either you hate him or you love him.
Yeah.
And he is unapologetically Kente.
Yes, he is. Kente and I, we both support an organization in Detroit called In Demand that's working to get more black men involved in education and get more black men involved in schools, period. We don't look at it as black men having to be the scapegoat for people not doing what they have to do at home. The fact of the matter is, regardless of what's going on at home, it needs to be more black men in schools that are doing positive things. Absolutely. I think we got a story. We got a unique story to tell.
From kindergarten to 8th grade, I had one black teacher.
There you go.
And I didn't have another black teacher until I made it to high school.
There you go. I didn't have a black teacher until I got to Eastern and was actually studying
black male teacher. Yeah.
Actually studying African American studies. That was my first African American male teacher. So, yeah. So yeah, they're doing a launch on January 18th. So all educators, male and female, if you're interested in coming out and supporting this movement to try to get more black men in schools, be it through volunteerism, through education, we're trying to partner with universities to provide incentives for young men to go into education as well, because tuition is a major issue.
It's a hurdle.
So if they can help that, you know what I'm saying?
Is there a mentorship arm of In Demand?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's essential in terms of making it where our brothers that's in schools are not just disciplinarians either. You understand instructional leadership, you understand curriculum, you understand instructional technology and all that. That's all important.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you all also do the think tank.
Yeah. Yep. We had an opportunity to bring a bunch of black male educators together to talk about the field, to talk about the challenges, to talk about the joys too, because I think the perception is that, we going to school and it's a battlefield every day, and it, truth be told, you do got to be psychologically strong, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of people that's looking to you for leadership.
Yeah.
But, we love what we do. We love touching the lives of kids. We love being with the kids. The kids keep us young. I always looked at myself as being the hip teacher, and I'm starting to lose, you know what I'm saying? I'm starting to lose my touch a little bit. I'm starting to lose my hip. So, and that's because I've been out of the classroom and been away from the class for a couple of years now, doing some different work. But it's essential to have black men in schools, man, and in several different facets.
You were a principal for a short period, like an AP at least, right?
I was a teacher for 8 years, then I was an AP, then I was a principal.
Okay.
I was a teacher and a principal in Northwest Detroit at a charter school, and then I moved out to Dearborn Heights and was a principal for a couple of years. And then I actually went to River Rouge and became an assistant principal, primarily because they were developing a music production program there. And we ended up kind of bolstering that and turning it into something we call RAMP, River Rouge Audio and Music Production.
Okay.
And we had 25 kids in every section making beats every day, having beat contests and learning about DAWs and learning about recording and stuff like that, because I believe definitely that if you can learn how to run a DAW, you can learn how to use Photoshop. You can learn how to run AutoCAD. You can learn how to use any design software there is.
When he was doing that, did you see a spike in attendance?
I put it like this, yes, to a degree. There were kids who couldn't connect with nothing in the school but that.
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. The guy who currently runs it, or was one of the founders, shout outs to Travis Bean, he did a beat battle in December. And there's a kid that participated that, when I was there, I left in the end of 2017 to go and move to Eastern Michigan and do this work. So when I was there, he was a freshman. Kids used to fuck with him, you know what I'm saying, and tease him and talk down on him and all that or whatever. He was battling, and he was dope. And the kids was cheering and hollering his name and this, that, and the third. And he didn't win, and they cut into us. Like, boo, boo, how you gonna get him out, blah, blah, blah. And I said, y'all need to show him that love every day.
Yeah.
Because y'all wasn't showing it when I was here.
Yeah.
Pin drop silence in the auditorium, 700 kids. Pin drop, because they know I was real. And I always brought that to them like that. So I think if it get one kid to want to be there more, it's a W.
It's a win.
Yeah.
Period.
Because like, I mean, it was going to schools. I had to go.
I hated school.
I
I
was
went to
always
school to
good at
wear
school.
clothes and talk to girls. I hated school.
Absolutely. I mean, dog, you know how many kids I have that are trying to do this? Like how many kids my oldest kids that I taught are 30, 31 right now.
Okay.
You know, and I have so many kids that are out here trying to get it in music wise. And I'm able to say, that's one of mine. That's one of mine. That's one of mine. Milfy, one of mine. Damn Jam's one of mine. Who else? E-Baby, one of mine. Been on the freestyles all them time. I mean, it's a lot of kids. It's a currency amongst our people that you can do this. And my whole thing is doing this is more valuable to the person doing it than the person that's listening. But also,
that's a bar.
Because you doing it, it's so many things that you can learn from trying to do this that you can translate to other things to get paid that ain't dirty. Why not really focus in on that as opposed to looking at rap like everything is what we see commercial and it's unclean and it's dirty and we making value judgments about it when this is the kids' culture, dog. Rap been around since 73. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it as a value, you know, and I look at it as a literacy. So my focus right now is I'm running a program, EMU Upper Bound, where we're working with kids to get them in college, get them all the support they need so they can be successful in college. But I'm also working on my PhD. And my PhD is in urban ed, but all I'm studying is hip hop pedagogy, like hip hop in the school. I just wrote a paper last semester about how Goody Mob was trying to tell people about how to navigate poverty in Atlanta because of all these policies that had been constructed with Reagan, Bush, and Clinton involving the Drug-Free Act, just like you know that song 1 to the 2 to 3 to 4, them dirty red dogs done hit the door. You know what the red dogs was? There was a militarized police force where they got all the equipment paid for through the Anti-Drug Act of 1988 from Ronald Reagan. So they gave them military equipment to be able to fight drugs. But now we look at drugs and it's a health crisis. Whereas
and now those police, I'm saying that, so that could have been the beta test. So now all the police is militarized.
Absolutely.
We need to try it out in a project.
Absolutely.
And see if it works.
Inside of a project. I don't know if them gates was put up to keep crime or to keep our ass in.
I spent a lot of time talking about that, housing policies. And it culminated in 1996 when Atlanta got the Olympics. You know, you have all these, they was moving people around.
Think about this. And I put my hat back on.
Go ahead.
Put my hat back on. Every project around the entire country is right by a freeway.
Right. In and out, quick access.
Every single one.
Say that.
Think about the ones in Detroit, the ones in Chicago.
Right.
Any project
New York.
right next to a freeway for quick, easy military access. It was called a project for a particular reason.
Absolutely.
So if he really feels like I don't know why these gates was to keep us in or keep them out, and we got an increased military presence, serial killer running around Atlanta at the same time, I'm like, fam, and that was the beta. Right. And now we just going to install this in every single place.
Replicate success.
Absolutely. And so you get this picture of this. He talked about a gate with a serial code was put up next. So the private security industry blows up. And then you also put up signs that says this is a drug-free zone. Because it was a drug-free zone, you had partnerships between the legal system and the housing authority that said, you know, we can arrest people for loitering. You know, loitering is a low-level crime. But if you're loitering in a drug-free zone, regardless of what you may have, you can get ticketed. And then you're in the legal system. You know what I'm saying?
I need y'all to make
something minor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm looking at hip-hop being constructed during a certain time as being a critique of what people was going through. It's an expression of social thought. It ain't just niggas rapping. You know, that's why I keep saying it's the most literary form of music ever. And it needs to be regarded as historical documents.
Yeah.
Well, some of it does. Make that booty bounce sound no.
Like Curb said last week, Goody Mob was not a fan of Clinton.
No.
All. And they were talking about New World Order and all this other stuff. Like, they was on it. He actually, what do you think about this? Our guest last week, shout out to
Curve Gotti.
Marcus Summerall
Shouts out
on everything. He said that the Goody Mob album that we talking about and was To Pimp a Butterfly 1.0.
It was. Absolutely. When he said, now Dirty Bill Clinton fronted me some weight. Acknowledging the fact that the government was responsible for allowing
these drugs into the community.
Told me keep 2, bring him back 8, and I only gave him 5 and stuck his ass for 3. Do you think that Clampett the sickest goons on me? Even though Clinton is a Democratic president that people looking at as being the coolest president ever, he was scandalous.
Who happened to take 26 trips on Epstein's plane. 26.
But the vast majority of us was like, oh, Clinton is cool because we was looking at him in deference to Reagan and Bush, but historically ain't gonna shine favorably on Clinton.
You know why we think Clinton is cool? And I blame Def Comedy Jam.
Because he eats sausage biscuits and fucking played the sax.
Yeah.
On Arsenio.
Right.
And once a comedian said that shit on Def Comedy Jam, and that was a major fucking joke, and we all took that shit and ran with it. Oh, Bill Clinton, cool.
Right.
Like a lot of the thoughts and the stereotypes we gave ourselves from watching the exact same. Everybody watched who didn't watch Def Comedy Jam?
Absolutely.
And we get church ain't nothing but thieves and blah, blah, they do the collection plate a million times. Who, before early 90s, I ain't never heard nobody. No. It was some Def Comedy Jams. Not saying that's not true.
Right.
But that's where the narrative comes.
As cable grew and it became more accessible, and you know, we only making up 10 to 13% of the population, and these images are far and few between, they have more power. Yeah. Why did Friday have such a broad cultural effect? You know what I'm saying? Because it was something that was relatable, but it was something that was so entertaining to us. I think about a show like Martin. You know what I'm saying? Martin had everybody talking like Martin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying, popping their neck and this, that, and the third. So we interpret and it's almost like if there's nobody like me and you show me a picture of me on the wall that looks just like me, and it may be doing something different than I'm doing, I'm at least gonna wonder what that is. I'm at least gonna want to be around that. Another thing I was postulating was about the fact that I think The Chronic, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, I think it changed. It was the beginning of the change of the American perception of marijuana. You know, you had rappers who were doing it. You know, you had rappers, Cypress Hill, How I Could Just Kill a Man, this, that, and the third. But The Chronic was so huge that it really began a discussion that's culminating today in the shit being legal in Michigan.
So let me ask you a question then. Because it definitely changed weed, right?
Absolutely.
And it made it cool to a whole set of people who...
Absolutely.
Was that a good or a bad thing?
I think it was both. Because when you think about it, before that time, rap looked at the drug user as being a punk. You know what I'm saying? A mark, basically, a fiend.
Yeah.
And I think
because
that
the drug of choice though was like the drug that was being talked about the most is like niggas selling crack.
Right.
Crack, base, heroin.
Yeah.
Right. And you would be surprised when you look back at the music. If you look back at the music at that time, there weren't a lot of rappers that was talking about it as though it was something to be proud of either. You know what I'm saying? You had Scarface kind of was on that original Ghetto Boy stuff, but every time like you take somebody like Ice Cube. Every song where Ice Cube was talking about he was selling dope or he was thugging, he ended up getting killed or going to jail. Every song, you know what I'm saying? So it was a good thing in that it did start to change people's perception away from crack to a certain degree, to a certain degree. But it also introduced it to the mainstream. The majority of people who bought The Chronic was white kids from the suburbs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I listened to The Chronic within the last week or so. Well, I'm probably about the last 2 to 3 weeks. And I didn't realize, so that shit came out, what, 92?
92, because Snoop came out like 93, 94.
So I'm 10 years old. And this was right around the time of the riots and shit, right?
Yeah.
Because all those skits,
yeah,
like if you ain't down,
yeah,
if you ain't down, I didn't realize how much of an impact that had on me.
Yeah.
Because at 10, we watch the slave shit that you see like in movies and at school on the TV. I mean, on the little thing they roll out in the auditorium and shit. But like, I didn't really have an understanding of none of that shit, but it gave you an opinion and a point of view. Now, I still hold that opinion and point of view, but was that my own?
No, it was crafted.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with my opinion of
Right.
it now, but I'm like, wait a minute,
It
what's
crafted
happening?
some. I remember watching the video for nothing like a G thing, like not the one that they show now on TV, like the long ass video where
on the box.
where fucking dads come down the steps, skinny
Right.
as hell, like
Right. With throwing the jacket over it.
Yeah, so I mean,
absolutely.
So like I remember like watching that shit like on MTV Raps,
Yes.
Yo MTV Raps.
I remember the first time I saw it.
on Rap City, like,
Yes.
and I remember like just being so enthralled within that shit.
Yes.
I'd never
Absolutely.
seen nothing like it.
Snoop was like literally the James Dean of our generation. And I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we may not have a relationship with him, but Snoop was the coolest nigga ever at one point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they was cool, but they was making some hard, clean
Gangster
records.
raps.
Clean records though. Clean.
We talk about like all the time, like certain hip hop not aging well. The Chronic aged like fine wine.
Listen,
that shit is still good to this day.
there's a common practice in engineering, recording engineering, where people will record and mix their records based on what they call a reference. A reference track is a song that's produced to completion,
Yeah.
that people will put into the same program with no effects on it or nothing and listen to their music in comparison to it. It's a lot of people that still reference their tracks from the Chronic, from Dog Food,
I want to
from
make sure it's as loud as this.
absolutely,
Like
absolutely the frequencies.
Yeah, when you
are the
talk
same
about it,
all
Nipsey.
the Nipsey,
with
rap niggas.
Rap niggas and Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
He said Puff helped him on that and he was like, nah, this shit need to sound like that. So they turned the Simps up and
Yep.
they adjusted everything like, no,
Yep.
this shit need to be louder.
That
It's
was-
not loud enough.
Natural Born Killers, when as soon as the beat comes on, like it feels chaotic.
Yeah.
It feels like there's something going on around. Like you looking over your shoulder. Something is about to happen.
When I listen to the Chronic, it feel like I'm like someone literally taking a camera and walking through South Central, Compton, in that area where I'm seeing riots and shit. I'm seeing niggas who just hanging out. I seeing niggas at the swap meet. I'm like, you really seen?
You couldn't tell sixth grade me that not everybody in LA had lowriders.
It was like,
I wouldn't believe that's what everybody drives.
It was like a place of wonder and fantasy. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know
it was
what I'm
like
saying?
Barbara Walters took 2020.
Absolutely.
And like it gave you an idea, like, oh wow, this is what's going on over there.
Absolutely.
And like the day the niggas took over, track number 4 on the like
yeah.
It was
like-
chaotic.
and like I should probably at 10 you probably not supposed to listen to that shit, but I was all
Absolutely
on this
not.
shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I was all on this and thinking and to a certain extent I understand it. Only reason I know who Dolomite is because
Yeah.
of the Dog Pound,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Dre and Snoop.
The vibration at that time was so different because we were so enraptured in, East Coast. Tribe was doing their thing and you know what I'm saying and all that. And jazz had its place, P-Rock and CL Smooth and all that, it had its place. But this
love
felt
West Coast
this
music.
was an entire planet though. Like you listen to it was a whole nother planet that you was on.
I love West Coast.
Yeah, and if
That's
you
just
had
all
never
it-
if you had never been to LA, like I had never been there. I still ain't been to LA, quiet as cow. I've been to San Fran. But it was a different world. So you saw this world and then you picked up things from Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
And you picked up things from
Menace.
Society, and you saw this juxtaposition of this place that was like brilliant, like beautiful, coastal. And all
Dog, when I
that.
seen Boys in the Hood, niggas started shooting at the screen.
Yeah.
Like that shit always sticks with
Yeah.
me. Well, I remember niggas
Yeah.
shooting at the screen.
Yeah, it was
at
vivid.
Boys in the Hood.
That was vivid.
yeah.
That was vivid. I mean, I was what?
Y'all talk. I mean, I talk about men's society all the time and shit, right? Like me and my brother, my aunt's boyfriend took us to see that shit, and like we came back and we got guns and we was shooting at each other on the front porch. Like that shit had an immediate impact.
Yeah.
Like, I grew braids. Like I wanted, you know what I'm saying? Like I went and got the same house shoes the
Yep.
niggas had.
At
Like
the Bruce Lee, we used to call them Bruce
Yeah.
Lees.
and with the white side, like nigga,
Yeah.
everything about that shit is, and it's amazing that I can think back as an adult now and be like how influenced I was by something I saw visually.
Right.
It was
And-
powerful.
And then I took the the soundtrack home with me and took all that energy from the movie and it carried with me for months because you got the soundtrack.
Absolutely.
Minute soundtrack was hard.
You know what I'm saying? But like,
it was hard.
It was.
But it's
Wasn't that had Murder Show on there?
yeah.
No.
No.
That was on the 187 he wrote on Spice One. It had Gorillas Ain't Gangsters. It had Sugar Got Snow Art. It had Top of the World with Kenya Groove. It had
Top of
the
the World
P is
was
Free.
my shit.
That Gorillas Ain't Gangsters used to go to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it when you don't see yourself represented or you
this is a crazy time, man.
Yeah.
Because now I find myself I go on YouTube, I'm bored. I go listen to some watch some Khalid Muhammad speeches, some Farrakhan when he's on Donahue a bunch of times and all this stuff, which was between 91, 92, 93, 94. So during all this time, when the Chronic came out, when Snoop came out,
Death Certificate, all that
shit was popping, and then Farrakhan was like at the height of what Farrakhan is. Like, man, this was
I just remember my grandmother.
This was a time.
Yes,
she never wanted me to watch Farrakhan. And like that made me so much more like curious about who he was.
I was in here all day on Monday looking like, watch it now. And 30 years later, and I'm looking at all this, I'm like, why y'all still saying the same lies and y'all still saying the same shit? Like he answered every single thing the correct way to be like cleared everything up 30 years ago. Donahue, I'm like, why is he so slow? Like, at 10, you think you have an understanding of what's going on, and via the music and everything, you really have no fucking clue.
No, you don't. I think when one thing I always do with people is I ask them what is their favorite album of all time. Like, what's your favorite album of all time? Because I feel like typically it'll tell me everything I need to know about you.
Stillmatic.
So straight up, we're gonna come back to that. Let's put a pin in that. But my favorite album of all time is America's Most Wanted, because that album was the opening of my consciousness about being a black man. You know what I'm saying? In terms of this conflict that you have, in terms of you may live or you may see a great deal of violence, but there's a whole nother mental state that you have to be in order to survive through it. So still to this day, it's still my favorite album of all time. I fight with that in Death Certificate because Death Certificate really took me there with teaching me about Khalid Muhammad, teaching me about, I'm reading Message to the Black Man. I'm 13 sitting up in my science class and all that because of this music.
Like, I wonder what would have happened if I read that information as a child and not as an adult.
Right. Why Stillmatic?
I love that album, dog.
Poison.
Poison. Like, so I enjoy music, clearly, but like I enjoy listening to Poison while reading the lyrics at the same time.
Okay.
Most albums, low key, like I will read the lyrics while the music is playing because when you auditory listen and you actually read it, it does something different. But Poison is one of my shit. Yeah. This country, what was the name of this joint?
My country, get on me.
She wants to get rid of me. Like, it's a whole bunch of shit on there that just really dope. Rewind, so cerebral, and how you.
That's what I focus on. That type of stuff is what I focus on. And when I work with artists nowadays, I always encourage them to show who they are and what they believe. You ain't got to be preachy. You ain't got to be, you know what I'm saying, trying to save the world. But people not going to make a connection with you in my eyes unless they know what you believe. Right. And if you just making records about, I got this, I'm murdering this, I'm doing this, I'm fucking your girl, this, that, and the third, it just don't hit the same for me. But I'm an old head. So that's what I kind of focus on. I recognize that people make music and people make records just trying to make money too. Yeah. You got to play that game. If you at that level of the game, you got to play it. But what you bring to the table is more important. Like, I think about Project Windows. You know, Project Windows was...
It's a song that got swept under the rug.
It just take you to a place, though. It take you there. You know what I'm saying?
I had a bootleg version of... I Am? Yeah, I had a bootleg version of I Am that had a version of Project Window on there.
Yeah.
And that shit was incredible.
It is, because it's not...
It's a dirty ass version of it, but it was incredible.
Yeah, but it's
Wasn't that a great time though?
The desperation in the beat, it's so desperate.
I bought that shit from $20 off a nigga in my biology class, just off the strength of somebody telling me like, "Hey, that nigga got the new Nas."
So what's so
I bought it on cassette for a bootleg cassette for $20, just off the strength.
Yeah,
right across the street from Damon's and everything like that was like, for lack of a better term, like the SWAT meet. You know what I'm saying? One of them 7 days type stores and shit right there on Greenfield and Jarreau. But like, you can go in there and get everything. Remember when after Pac died, it was Machiavelli 1, Machiavelli 2, Machiavelli up to Machiavelli 6, and you got all this unreleased music that you were never really supposed to hear. But I would just be up in there all the time getting all this music, low quality. It was already on a cassette. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But low quality mixtapes, and like, man, this was just a great time in music, dog.
It was. It was pre the whole MP3.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Period. And it was kind of the last point.